Let's talk more about the president's trip and the other news of the day. Kellyanne Conway, as counselor to the president, joins us here on the North Lawn. Kellyanne, thanks for coming out.
Thank you, Brett.
First, on the president's trip, why did he feel compelled to go? Obviously, the mayor of Pittsburgh expressed his thoughts. Others said he's the president, he should go. Why did the president want to go?
The president never hesitated. He wanted to be there with the Tree of Life community to express his condolences along with the First Lady, his daughter and son-in-law. And with the president's remarks on Saturday were very strong against anti-Semitism. And that's the lesson I really want my 4 Catholic children and the whole world to know, is that these 11 innocents were murdered because they were Jewish. That man went in there allegedly saying all Jews must die and that he was bent on murdering them, and he got his way with 11 of them. I want their stories to be remembered. I want their names to not be forgotten. I've been trying to read them and also just to have the instructiveness of anti-Semitism and its prevalence around the world, and then unfortunately here in Pittsburgh. I think it's unfortunate people were out there politically protesting with different messages today. That is their First Amendment right, but this president was not about politics today. He was about the mourning in Pittsburgh.
Do you expect the president to speak out more about this against, white nationalism or anti-Semitism? Do you expect him to give a speech or something?
Well, he's been doing that, though, all along. People should read his tweets. They should listen to him on Saturday when he gave those remarks, very heartfelt remarks. Those of us who have discussed this particular tragedy, act of evil, vile hatred, anti-Semitic hatred with him, know that where his heart is, and he's tried to express that to the country. People who want to find negative will always find it, but I think many people looked up today, within the last hour, Brett, saw a president and first lady truly moved by what they see in the loss, the senseless loss, and the act of evil there. This president has shown up in Las Vegas, in Parkland, Florida. He's been there for natural disasters that have struck different states and the territories, and so for him, this is more of a natural place for him to be than people give him credit for.
All right, the other issue today is that he told Axios that he wants to possibly sign an executive order to change birthright citizenship. Here is House Speaker Paul Ryan on this issue.
Obviously cannot do that. You cannot end birthright citizenship with an executive order. We didn't like it when Obama tried changing immigration laws via executive action, and obviously as conservatives, we believe in the Constitution.
As conservatives, we believe in the Constitution. So how do you respond to that?
Well, as do we. We didn't like it when the Congress failed to act on immigration for, many years now, including this last year. Do you know it's been over a year, Brett, since the president presented his 70-point immigration plan to the United States Congress? They never acted on it. Then he boiled it down to 4 points. Take care of the Dreamers, DACA, build the wall, end the visa lottery, and then end the chain migration. 4 very simple concepts, all of which poll very well, by the way, with large swaths of Americans, not just the base. And yet, Congress never acted. Now, on the matter of birthright citizenship, 30 countries do have it, but only 2 in the, quote, developed world as the IMF defines that, Canada and the U.S. Europe doesn't have that. France ended theirs in 1993. And most parts of Asia, many parts of Asia don't have it. So many other constitutional scholars have said that the 14th Amendment has been misinterpreted or misused in this way. There's no question that there have been news reports about, for some, birth tourism, where women pay a lot of money, maybe money that they really don't have, to make sure that their children are born here. So the idea that this isn't happening, the idea that it isn't going on in the thousands, the idea that that it's not unique to the U.S. and to Canada and the developed world, is just false.
So what do you say to the people who look at this and we're 1 week from Election Day and say, come on, this is just about turning the page, stirring the pot, getting people fired up?
Well, the president's out there, as you know. He's in Pittsburgh today to express his condolences for this vile anti-Semitic act, but he also, on all the other days, he's out there campaigning for candidates who he says will help support his agenda. And what does he talk about out in the stump? Many things. He talks about a free market health care. He talks about the tax cuts. He talks about deregulation. He talks about the fact that he has tried to meet with Kim Jong-un to get denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula, which helps everyone, and that the remains of those fallen in Korea are now back on American soil, being respected and buried by their families finally. illegally. We have detainees and hostages that are coming back home. And he talks about immigration, but he talks about immigration in many ways. He talks about border security as national security. He talks about coming to this country legally or through a legal port of entry. There are 26 of them. Do you know just last year we had 38,000, we processed 38,000 claims of credible fear. That's a record. DHS said over 500,000 people tried to cross over illegally last year. We have an uptick in the number of children being smuggled. We have an uptick in the number of assaults that are happening. That's not everybody. That's not most people. But why are we turning a blind eye? Why are all those Democrats silent? They all signed on to the Feinstein plan that basically just looks the other way. Border security is national security, and this president has talked about it for many years. It helped him get elected.
One of the tweets during the pipe bomb mailings that the president sent out was that it was turning the page, that it was essentially slowing the momentum of Republicans at that moment. Is that what he's seeing now? Is that the momentum was slowed?
Well, the president sends many tweets on many different topics, so I think we need to take the totality of the tweets and the totality of his presidency. While he was sending, or about the time he was sending that tweet within a day or so, he also had an unbelievable event here in the East Room with Black Americans, and they came from all across the country to say that we are not all Democrats. We support the president's agenda, and he's welcomed us into the people's home, into his home, in the residence, and that got very little coverage, and the coverage it got was then being demeaned and derided by others, and he's sticking up for them as well. So this president does not see the momentum slow down insofar as he's out there running through the tape, leaving it all in the field like he did in 2016. He will have done a record number of presidential visits between Labor Day and Election Day for any sitting president. President Obama was active, President George W. Bush was active, but this president will have had more events than they did.
Kellyanne, we appreciate your time.
Thank you, Brett.